Hello and welcome back to the channel, where today we'll be going over Unraid and the recommended add-ons that you should have for most users out there. Now some of these add-ons will depend user to user, some of them will be must-have, and others are just good to have for information and other features that they might provide. So let's get started. Now if you've used Unraid before, you're probably aware of what it is, what it's not, what it can do, and what it can't do. Now the benefit with Unraid, if you're not aware, has a very flexible array with as long as the primary parity is the largest disk in the system, the other disk can be whatever you have available, and you can fairly easily swap them around. So if you need to start with 4 terabyte drives or 1 terabyte drives and you want to move up to 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 20 later on, as long as the primary parity is the biggest one, you should be fine. Now I will go into some of these parts in another video where I go over array configurations, ZFS in more detail, etc., in how you move around the primary partition, the primary parity disk, in case you need to go beyond the size of the biggest disk in your system, which should be the parity. Okay, now we are here with the add-ons, so let's get started with the add-on section. So if you're familiar with Unraid, Unraid comes with a community-based app store. Technically community-based, it's community applications. It has an update, even though this was just set up today, but that's fine. So this is the App Store. If you've not seen it before, you can basically grab anything you want from in here. If you do not want to grab it from in here, it's a little bit more tedious. You can actually set things up from in here and configure everything by yourself. I've never done that before, so you might need to look at other places for better tutorials on that. So I love the App Store that they've got available, and it has everything I need. So let's get started with this. Now the first application, if you've ever used Unraid, you're probably familiar with, is Fix Common Problems. So probably not a good example when that is the first application you're going to install in Unraid. But in most cases, it's not actually helping you fix problems. It's just advising you that you may have been able to configure some things differently, or something is out of date, or some permission setting on the array is wrong. Again, as I say, it's fix common problems. Now, in other cases, it will tell you, don't do this, but you've implemented because that's how you want it. You can just ignore it. So the application is installed. We can get to the applications under settings here, fix common problems. Now it can be configured to automatically scan. In this case, we're not going to do that. It's telling us, hey, that's not up to date. There's something in there that's not up to date. The Docker, oh sorry, this is not up to date, and the Docker is not set to check for updates automatically. So we will click notification settings, and we will see, we'll just tell it to check everything once a day, once a day. Now we don't want this. Day, month, year, that's the standard format in Australia. Store notification in flash, no, we don't want that. Okay, so we will just tell it to check for updates once a day, which you will overcome with some of the add-ons later on anyway, so this is probably not that important. Okay, now even though we've just fixed this up, it will not go away. You will need to rescan. And I will not go into all the applications exactly. I will just glaze through them. You can schedule it here daily or weekly to actually do a manual check. It will do a check and tell you. Background notifications, blah, blah, blah. Do we want, nope, I'm just going to ignore it, because we're just going to glaze through all these add-ons. We've got plenty more to go. Now the other applications you don't need to, this application you don't need to install. It's Unraid Connect. Now Unraid Connect basically allows this to be accessible from outside, get statistics on your array, etc. without being in the house. It will relay through Unraid their services with your account that you would have used to purchase this license that's linked to here, and it would just show up in a manager. So up here, sorry, Unraid Connect. Yeah. Okay, because I'm not logged in, so I'm just going to log in. Yeah, just register. All right, configure connect features. This is going to be annoying, but I'll show you briefly. You will need to enable the SSL, otherwise this bottom part you can't do. So we need to say enable the SSL. Yeah, accept the risk. Yeah, it's still us. Now moving forward, if you do install this add-on, you will need to go through SSL, through a HTTPS link, which I guess is fine. So let's go to settings, management. Now you will need to actually do this provision. It can take a minute or two. Just having a sip of beer here. All right, I might fast forward through this if it takes too long. All right, now the reason it basically failed to provision is because I do not want port 80 and 443 or any others to be open to here. You can say UPnP, it will punch a hole through your firewall for the same purpose, in case if this is enabled in your modem, that is. Most home consumer modems have this enabled, or routers have this enabled by default. I do not want to do that. Now, Unraid Connect has one great feature as well. Yeah, the flash backup. You can activate the flash backup here. It will back up the flash configurations, the templates, all the... Now, this will not back up all your Docker data, etc., because that would be enormous. This will just back up all the essential configurations that are on the USB stick. Now, I'm not going to activate this because this is just a testing thing, and I'm just going to be filled with configuration for sticks that I don't know. Okay, so that is that. Now, Appdata Backup, that is probably everybody's question here. How do we back up the Docker images? Now, I mean, like a lot of things in this app store, it makes sense. Appdata Backup. So we're just going to install it. I will briefly show you how to use it. Now, whenever you're doing anything in Docker, in Unraid, this done button, you have to wait till it says it is done before you close it. If you close it too early, it may not have finished. So we're going to go to settings, backup and restore. Now this is what it will be backing up. So if cache just means if you were utilizing the cache drive and user, we will just leave that as default destination. I will just put it on ZFS. Yeah, that's fine. Now you can make this a network resource through NFS or other forms, which I will probably show you when I start doing the video on configuring the array, etc., and number of other things. And I mean, actually, possibly in the Plex video as well, upcoming soon. Do you want to back up the flash drive? Yes. So that will be the USB with the configuration. Copy. Nope, that's fine. VM data. Now we don't have any VMs, so we're going to say no. But if you did have, now this is just metadata, so it's configuration settings, not the actual VM. That is a different application, which I have here on the list. So I mean, we can say yes, that's fine. Notifications, schedule, daily, weekly, monthly, I will leave this disabled because I do not want it. If there's some that you want to skip, because keep in mind, when it backs it up, it will turn off the application. It will shut the Docker image down, it will back it up, and then it will power it back on. Now you do have an option here to update it after it has backed it up. So it will do a backup, it will turn off the image, do a backup, update the application, and then it will turn it back on. Make sense? So I'll just say save. I think we are done. Yeah, that should do the job. So if we did want a manual backup, we can just say yes. We only have Appdata and Kumar in there, so it will pull it. I mean, I think they're both currently on ZFS anyway, maybe, I don't recall. We can get out of here, but again, it shouldn't take that long. Backing up flash drive at the moment. Kumar is done. All right, now the next application is the auto update. Now this is separate from the backup and update that we just did. This is just auto update. Okay, I will post all the application names in the description below. Now auto update, now what this actually allows you to do is auto update everything. So not Unraid itself, but the Docker and the plugins. So the update, backup and restore app utility only backs up Docker images and updates them, but nothing else. Now all the configuration settings from plugins are actually stored on your USB stick. So as long as the USB stick is backed up, you're still fine. Auto update applications. We can just say yes, 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 update everything. Now that is plugins, Docker. Yep, just update everything, how frequently we want it. Daily, monthly, you know, weekly, whatever the case is. Weekly is probably fine for most people. I like to do daily, but in this case I will just actually I'll leave it on daily. Okay, done. So that will now, moving forward, auto update those applications. Now keep in mind, some applications you might not want to auto update. During the update cycle, they will obviously be stopped and restarted. Make sure this update cycle is not at the same time as the backup. Now the backup can take anywhere from a couple of minutes to a couple of hours, depending on how much data you have and where you're moving it to. So keep that in mind. The next application that I recommend is VM backup. Okay. Now I've not used this easy backup. I've used VM backup, and it's just a simple application similar to the app backup that we just ran a minute ago. We're just installing it. Settings, VM backup. So settings, yes, location. Well, because we're in ZFS, look, I'll just put it in media here just to show you. Backup all VMs, yes or no. If we did have some, you would just select the ones that you did want. Configure all of these as you see fit. Frequency daily. Now from memory, I'm not 100% sure if it actually shuts the VMs down when it does this. It may not actually need to shut it down. It might just, you know, all these Compressions you probably want to enable. Snapshots, yes. Skip the ISOs because you do not want to back up the ISOs, and you would just hit apply and then call it a day. All right, I mean, that should make sense. Now, this application will depend on you. The application in question is called config to mega. Okay, this will actually back up to mega.nz, which is kind of like Dropbox. I think these days you get 15 gigs or 50 gigs. I'm not sure if it's 15 or 50. I have a feeling it's 50 gigs. Free encrypted backup, which only you have access to. So these applications you would run, you would link it to your Mega account, and it will back up your USB key to Mega, depending on how you configure it, usually daily. Okay, if you do not want to use the Unraid Connect and give Unraid some form of remote access to your system, I mean, I personally don't care. There's nothing on there that's private. I keep that elsewhere. Not because I don't trust them. It's just I keep most of my things on my Synology still, and multiple other places like pCloud. So this application will depend. I'm not going to actually install it and show you. I mean, I can install it, but I'm not going to link it, and I can't show you without linking it. So you would just enter the email address of your Mega account, the password, the remote folder. If you leave it default, it will just make an Unraid flash config folder in there, and then it'll just say, yep, done. Now these next few applications are probably the ones that everybody will definitely be using. Now this one here is actually, if I just show you, let's just go to, for example, media. Let's go to this. As you see, I have no buttons anywhere. I can't do anything with this. I can't delete content. I can't do anything. It's a very bare bones. So what this here does, and then Dynamix has a fairly large number of applications that they use, and they're all very good and high quality products. So you install that, and suddenly we actually just gained a number of buttons. So we got buttons on the right to move permissions. So if you needed to say read write everybody from here, if you wanted to delete something or just move it to somewhere else, okay, that application is a lifesaver. I think that should be in there by default, but apparently it's not. So, all right, moving on. The next application is Unassigned Devices. I mean, the name kind of says it all. We're just going to install all three parts of it because it's probably recommended you have all three parts. Okay, the extra stuff, come on. Yep, I only have a 1 gig connection down, so the bottleneck is probably on their side. All right, now we are done. Now what that has just enabled us to do, and most of these will be under settings, unassigned devices. By default, destructive mode is off. If you need to do anything like actually pre-clear a disk, you would enable this. If you wanted to show ZFS volumes, yeah. Automount USB, now we don't want that. We probably want to set this as public default, at least in our case. Enable as time machine backup. Yes, in case you have a Mac and you wanted to back it up to here. Now what we can do with this flag here is that remote, the user I created for this in the first part of this video where I just set up Unraid, is just called test user or something along the line. If you wanted them to, when they write certain things to the network share, to actually be forced to the nobody group, you can do that. Okay, I'm just going to say yes. that will just make it much more simple for you to manage permissions, etc. Don't want to export as a NFS. In my case, yes, there's nothing on here. Plus NFS is very specific. Okay, so did I actually enable the destructive? No, I didn't, because, you know, shows ZFS this. Done. All right, now I don't really have any spare disks here to show you, but while we would have options here under unassigned, we would have the options to actually clear the disk, and we will be able to pre-check the disk. So what that will do is it will actually wipe the disk one to many times, one to, let's say, 3 times, whatever you configure it. It will delete the data, it will write the data on there, it will delete the data, write once, then it will read those ones to make sure it can actually read them. This will just validate that the disk you're putting in the system is actually ready. That is very recommended to do, especially if you have secondhand disks and new ones as well, because I've had a number of scenarios where a brand new disk is actually a dud. So doing that check first is always important before you implement into your main array. So this application, Unassigned Devices, is very important. Okay, now moving on to the next application, which is just called user scripts. I mean, the name kind of says it all. I think a lot of the things in Unraid are basically, you look for it, and that's what they are. Now, what user scripts allows you to do is actually automate certain scripts. You'll be able to put in scripts, which I will be briefly showing in the next part, which will probably be the Plex tutorial. Okay. User scripts, you would be able to make a new script, test. You can actually just edit the script and you can make it execute. So either make network share permissions, permissions on your shares. You can make it run certain scripts that will put the Nvidia graphic card or anything else in here in proper sleep, because some of the graphic cards just do not go in proper sleep and they end up, you know, burning for like 30-50 watts while they're doing nothing. So this is where you would schedule it to run, you know, at the start of or the array hourly or whatever the case is. Or if you have an Nvidia graphic card and it's a consumer version, they would usually be limited to 3 streams. There's actually a script to unlock that, so you'll be able to, you know, stream 10, 15 devices, or, you know, that will obviously depend on the performance of the network graphic card, sorry. All right, we're mumbling on too much, so let's just move on. The next application is very important. Okay, Unbalanced. I mean, the name is kind of misleading, but implies that your RAID is unbalanced or array is unbalanced, and you want to balance it. Now, in this case, we only have one disk, and the other disk is a ZFS array. So most applications that I'm showing you here will be under settings, or they will benefit you somewhere else. We will click that. We will say enable, yes. It does consume a small amount of resources and occupies a port. That's why it's disabled by default. And we will just click this. It's not obvious. We click the name. Okay. So what this will actually allow us to do, as you see at the top, you got scatter, gather. Okay, those two options. So scatter. If we had multiple disks, we can say, hey, we wanna move this to, you know, like 4 other disks, because this is too crowded. Because as I explained, the data actually sits on the disk itself. It's not split among the disks. It's one disk plus parity always. So you will not find a movie that's on 3 disks at the same time. Now, one of the benefit is if you actually watch the first part under disk here, the disk will actually spin down. If they're not in use and you're only watching a movie that's on disk 3 out of 12, you know, the other 11 disks can be sleeping. But you might once in a while want to balance them, or you want to gather them. If you want to say, I've got this on these 6 disks, but it all fits on one, can I put them on one disk? Yes, you can. You would just do gather, select, and then just go next, next, and just follow it, and you let it do its thing. It will tell you if there's any problems with permissions, etc. In some cases, you may need to just go here under Tools, Docker Save New Permission, say yes, and start, and that will actually configure all the permissions to be compatible with Docker, as it says here. Okay, so if you get any errors, go to Tools, New Docker, Save Perms. That there, it's very bad at highlighting just one box, but I think you get it. All right, now most of these other applications will be specific to you. Now, as I mentioned before, Dynamix has a fair few applications that are very helpful. So Dynamix System Info will basically give you system info. This kind of just shows you the info. The other application, I think, gives you more stats for a longer period. So the other application is called Dynamic System Stats. Okay. I might be wrong in how they use. I just installed them both, so it's not that easy to see where one app starts and the other one stops once you install so many. Now this other application is CoreFreq. As it implies, it will just tell you, the frequency of everything that you have running on here. I will just go and install all of these, and then I will just show you. Okay. Done. So settings, CoreFreq is down here. You basically just do a test. Okay. Did I click the wrong thing? Yeah, I clicked out of the window. So the information shows up here on the stats, some of the information. So it will give you details here. You'll get more details here being shown. In a few other areas, there's going to show you more info. That system profiler. Okay, so tools, BIOS. As you see, this is just a HP. Doesn't even tell you what it is. It does what I needed to do for these videos, and it's very compact, so it gets to sit on my desk, so I'm very flexible in moving things around. Okay, 8 gig sticks, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, that looks about right. Yeah, they're different speeds because I just put in whatever fit. Too much effort to make the match. Okay, now the next applications will be more for people that will be streaming media. Okay, so let's go back to the App Store. Now GPU statistics. Now this one you might want to install regardless if you're streaming media or not. Okay, GPU statistics. Done. Since we're already there, Intel-GVT-g install. Now that just Intel-GVT-g will just show you in the command prompt if the Intel CPU is in use. So that is not really a must. Now some other applications, Intel. So you might need to install this application, or as it says, Broadwell or newer, or you might need to install Intel this one, Intel i915 SR-IOV. Now SR-IOV is not generally supported by a lot of things. I think from memory this only works with the latest stuff, but I might be wrong. I think it needs to be fairly new stuff for that to work. Again, I might be wrong. I generally just install both, and the system figures out if it doesn't work, it just won't do what it needs to do, and it can run there. Then we obviously have Nvidia drivers. Now this is only for you if you needed to. Did I already install it? Nvidia driver. Now I don't have an Nvidia card in here at the moment, so I will install it, but it probably will not do anything. Okay. And then similar to Nvidia, sorry, Intel-TOP, there is NVTOP. Okay, an existing application is still in progress, so up here at the top, we will just have to wait that out. Okay, it installed. It basically told me that I don't have an Nvidia card. Okay, and you need to stop and restart Docker in case you plan to use it straight away. So let's go back to installing NVTOP. Okay. Now as you can see on the Unraid system, it's not really doing anything, just sitting there at the screen. All right. Now to briefly just show you GPU statistics up here on the front page, GPU. Okay, we're just going to select that one. If I had an Nvidia in there, I'll be able to select both. And I just go apply, go done. So this will show me if the graphic card is in use for anything. If I had an Nvidia also, it will show up here in the middle, in this section here. You can not really move them around freely at the moment, but in version 7, which should be around the corner of Unraid, you can move this around freely as you see fit, which is very, very good move from them. Okay, now the last handful of applications that we're going to be installing, or 4 to be precise, is only for people that intend to use ZFS. Now ZFS is natively supported in here, and I have shown that in my previous base setup, and I will actually have an independent video coming up soon after the Plex video on arrays, how to set them up, ZFS, the normal array, how to remove the main partition, sorry, not main partition, main parity drive, how to replace it with another one, a number of other tutorials. Okay, but these applications here are primarily for ZFS. We can probably just type in ZFS, if I spelled that correctly. So we need ZFS Master. Okay. We're just going to give it a second to install. Done. We're going to need this. ZnapZend, however you pronounce it. ZnapZend. Cool. And we're actually going to use this Sanoid application here. Now I will not go into depth on how to configure these, etc. I will just show you briefly, as there's a bigger video coming up. Now since we do have ZFS Master installed, we actually now get more statistics. Okay, as you can see, it has things below. Now at the moment we have not got this configured correctly. So if I say test. Encryption no. Mount yes. Compression inherit. Just say create. Okay. So now that we created this, we actually can take snapshots. Yes. No, we can just say start. What that has just done is created a snapshot, and I would be able to roll back that snapshot in case something happened. Now keep in mind it rolls back everything, and automatically that test would have become a share. So if you have a look there, we can make this available on the network, and done. And there's test. I don't have permissions. Export, yes. Oh, so we actually need to go to here. Permissions. Again, I'll go through that stuff later. All right, now we have bright permissions. So without the add-ons that we installed just before, some of these things would be very difficult and painstaking to do. So all I did was click in here. I moved up one tier. I selected test and permissions. Okay, and if you needed to transfer the owner from nobody to, I don't know, TST lab or root, you can do that here. I will go into more depth in the array tutorials probably next week or in the week after. I will see how I go with time. So that will probably be it for today. It's not much point showing you some of the NVIDIA things because I do not have the graphic card installed in here, and there's probably not much to show. It just installs drivers, etc. All of these here you can just see. System stats will show in the main headers. Most things that we just gone through will be under settings, and they're here. Okay, so that one is clearly not supported, at least in my case. Now this here, don't worry about this message. It's actually still working. This just sometimes shows up depending on your system. Again, I will go through a lot of these things in Plex in regarding to Intel and Nvidia in the coming days. Have a good day and hope to see you around. Bye.